The others, yeah, at some point.
So which would you say you found the most challenging?
I think the one I found the most challenging was Rosalind in As You Like It, and that was mainly because we started indoors in Nottingham, actually, and then had to move outdoors into Regent's Park. And it's completely different. I don't know if anybody here has acted outdoors. Have you? Anybody got a hand to raise? Yeah. It's a whole different energy that has to go behind it, and subtlety goes out the window a bit. And we weren't mic'd or anything, so that was quite a tough call, but I loved it.
Well, speaking of theatres, I mean, I'm guessing that on tour you've probably played all of them. So, is there a theatre which you've found is your favourite?
I think the Hackney Empire is the most beautiful theatre in the world, and I loved playing the Aldwych too.
Now, speaking of theatre, apart from Shakespeare, have you done any more contemporary stuff like Alan Ayckbourn?
Yeah, I've done loads of Ayckbourn. Done it with Colin Baker. I first met Colin Baker. Forgive me, those of you who know this story. In the 70s, we had a lock-in in a pub in Oxford. He came to see a friend of his in the play I was in. So we're in this lock-in, and we're going to play darts. And I get partnered up with Colin Baker. And his final shot has to be a triple, a double, and a bull. And I said, rather rashly, if you get this, I'm yours for the night, Colin. And you know, he did. He got it. He got it, and I was, scared and living with someone else and shot out of the pub. So fast forward 30 years, and we're both cast in Bedroom Farce, which is 3 couples' bedrooms. And he and I start the play in bed, eating sardines on toast, deeply attractive. And as I walked through the door for the read-through, he went, "At last I get you into bed."
I think some of us have had the pleasure of not being in bed with Colin, but we've met him. Yeah. And he comes across as a very, very intelligent, sharp, and really decent person.
Oh, he's my phone a friend. I
Really?
mean, he's such a... Did anyone see the Eggheads?
Oh,
I'm so embarrassed by the Eggheads.
I'd have flopped on science as well, to be honest.
Yes?
Yeah.
Well, Colin, they got a Doctor Who team together to do Eggheads, which is a quiz show.
Yeah.
And we had Fraser, John, Katie, Colin and me. And they'd all done brilliantly in their rounds. I mean, Katie pretends to not know anything. She knows everything. She did really, really well. So then up came science. Now, Colin had said, please let me do the last round, because he's got brilliant general knowledge. So we said, yeah, absolutely, you can. But of course, that left me with science, me. And Katie's bullying me into it. "Oh, darling, I think you'll do terribly well." So just before we'd started, lovely Barry, I don't know those of you that know Eggheads, Barry's just adorable. He's the permanent team. And he'd come up to me, and he's a huge Doctor Who fan. And he is. And he went, "Oh, I'm so pleased to meet you, and Leela's my favourite, and la la la." So when it came to me choosing who I was going to go opposite, of course I chose Barry. Nobody told me he has a double first in science from Cambridge. So I ended up not being able... I didn't even know what an analgesic was. I do now. It's a painkiller for anyone that doesn't know it, but I'm sure you all do. I think I'm the only person in Britain that didn't know it was a painkiller. Then we got, because they'd all done so well, sorry, is this boring? Is this all right? Because they'd all done so well, we got to Glasgow airport a bit late. Fraser was staying, but the other, in Glasgow, the other 4 of us were dashing for this plane. So John Leeson had just had an operation, so he couldn't run anywhere. Colin's a little large now, so he couldn't really run anywhere. Katie can't see anything, so there was no point in sending Katie off to look for the aeroplane. So Muggins here gets left, hurtling through the airport. And why is it always the furthest one away to stop the aircraft, which I did. So I rang 3 months. I mean, we are people that are supposed to save the universe, and we couldn't even negotiate Glasgow Airport. So I'm hurtling for this plane, and eventually John staggers up, and then Colin staggers up, and I think both of them are going to pass out at any second. They're having so much. I mean, where's Katie? And they went, oh. They lost her. They lost Katie Mann. So we left her. To our eternal shame, we abandoned Katie Manning in Glasgow Airport. And what had happened, we found out later, I rang her as soon as we landed going, where are you? Are you all right? She said her bag had broken, and of course she had so many liquids and fluids and bottles of water, and then she got hauled off to get searched thoroughly, and had a long lecture about you're not allowed to take liquids through anymore, and so, you know, it could only happen to Katie.
But she's forgiven you for leaving her stranded.
She said, how kind of you to phone. She didn't go, you went off and left me. He was like, oh, you're so sweet of you, you're such a good friend. I thought, oh, not really, because I left you. I tried to get the plane to hold up, but it wouldn't hold up any longer.
Well, so. Katie was here earlier on,
yeah,
and she's always got a smile on her face.
Yeah, I know.
So I can believe that. Now, speaking of smiles on our faces, you've done a lot of serious theatre.
Yeah.
But you've also done pantomime.
Yes.
Oh,
yes, I have.
You must have some funny panto tales.
Well, Colin played my henchman in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He was really pissed off that I was top billing and he was second. That didn't go down too well. But I loved working with him. I really did. And also, I played Good Fairy to Mark. Oh, Blue Peter. Curry, yes, absolutely. And I did a terrible thing to him. We had 2 very similar scenes, first and second half. And there was a bit of a pause, a bit of a lull. And I was absolutely convinced it was his line. And I just went across to his side of the stage and went, it's your turn now. And he went, is it? I think it is. And he absolutely took the blame, bless him, and, you know, rescued and carried on. And then, of course, I realised I had jumped to the second half. I was so apologetic in the interval. He didn't mind at all. He said he wouldn't do it on purpose, but bless him.
So pantomime is as unpredictable as it can be.
I'm not a great one for improvising. I mean, it can look improvised, but I like to rehearse stuff to within an inch of its life.
So, for example, in Doctor Who, you weren't really allowed to ad-lib the lines. You had to learn them word perfect.
You might in rehearsal, but no, you're not. You're not. And if EastEnders as well, and you don't get any rehearsal for that. You have to come in word perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, earlier on, you mentioned a play called Pulling Faces, which I imagine that many people here saw it, but for the benefit of those who didn't, perhaps you could tell us something about it.
It's a comedy about whether to have a facelift or not, basically. It's a project that started almost 10 years ago. And I met the lovely Helen Goldwyn at Big Finish. She's a great writer and a lyricist, singer, actress. And I loved her work, and I wanted to do some stand-up, and indeed I tried a bit of stand-up. It's terrifying. But what's really difficult about stand-up is you have to have new material the whole time. Because as soon as you've done it, somebody's recorded it, it's up in the net, your joke's gone. So instead we wrote this kind of storytelling piece, and where I play a radio presenter called Joanne Taylor, and 11 other people, so I play 12 people in all. It is also on audio from Big Finish, but we got other people in to play the parts. But on stage, I play all 12 of them.
You play 12 characters in the same play?
I do.
But how did you manage to not get lost during the play?
Well, like I said, just rehearse to within an inch of...
And each character would have had a totally different voice and personality.
Yeah, except for my daughter, who I just gave a higher register to. So she just sounded a bit younger.
But that does sound...
But I made some choices, like my ex-husband, I made him a right northerner, right, so obviously I'm not talking like me. and a builder, right? You know, very cartoonesque, made it very obvious, you know.
That sounds exactly like a builder I know. Not that well, though.
The builder came about in the script because I had a builder. I've got the tiniest extension in the world. It's about from here to the edge of the stage and about from you to me. That's it. That's all the 4.5 years. 4.5 years and 3 sets of builders. I will never try and get builders on the cheap again, ever. It was a nightmare, and he was called Lee. So I've got this little homage in the play to Lee.
But why on earth did it take that long?
Exactly. I don't know.
You weren't paying him by the day, were you?
Week. That was my mistake.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. Pulling Faces, did that have any... Is that related to any way to another play you did called Face Value?
Yes, Face Value was the first incarnation of it.
Oh.
And then I chopped 20 minutes out of it, changed the director, kind of downsized it a bit. I was a bit ambitious with it first off. I actually went, it started because I did go for a consultation for a facelift. And I booked one. And the guy patted me on the way out, like I was a little puppy or something. I thought, well, I'm not going to find a politically correct plastic surgeon, am I? Anyway, I booked it, and then I got a job, and then I had to postpone it, and then I just felt much better about myself, and then I never had the facelift done, so it didn't happen.
And are you pleased you didn't go through with it?
I am, but you know, never say never. I wouldn't touch Botox or anything like that. It's food poisoning. How do you put food poisoning that near your brain?
But you see, I'm guessing that as an actor, that could be quite a bad thing, because you need the expressions in your face. Why would you want to do something which freezes it?
Well, I recently, well not recently, a couple of years ago, did Arsenic and Old Lace, and I eventually did it with Sherry Hewson. But the woman who was suggested to play opposite me, quite a well-known actress, and the director rang me out and said, please ring the producers, say you can't work with her, I can't do comedy with her, she can't move her face. How can you do comedy if you can't move your face?
Now, to move briefly away from theatre, would it have been about a year or two after you left Doctor Who, you did a series called The Amiga Factor, which didn't run for very long, but it's very well remembered as being or in our opinion, the precursor to the X-Files.
Well, exactly, without the budget.
Yeah. Have you seen it since?
No, I haven't. I do remember one very dramatic story, though. I think it was episode 4 or 5. And Jimmy Hazeldine had to be taken over by the devil, and it was a very, very difficult special effect set up. No, nothing to do with computers then, obviously. 79, I think it was. Yeah. And just at the point, took about 15, 20 minutes, just at the point where the devil got superimposed onto Jimmy Hazeldine's face, we had a blackout in the studio, and it lasted 4.5 hours, and nobody ever found out why everything blacked out. Really spooky.
You hear stories like that about the making of The Exorcist and The Omen. Yeah. About strange things happening. But if anyone's not seen it, can I just say that it is an incredible series. It's only about 8 episodes long. Yeah. But it's really, really good, and it's very. Don't watch it with the light off like I did. And it is good stuff. But apart from, of course, you're in Bergerac.
Yeah.
A regular in Bergerac, so that must have been nice being on Jersey, because it always looked nice.
Darling John Nettles, I cannot speak highly enough of him. There was a time when I didn't really have anywhere to live. I'd sold my house and the purchase had fallen through, and I was about to go over to Jersey to film. So I had 4 or 5 weeks with nowhere to live. And my personal life was in a terrible state. And I just rang up John, who was already living on the island, and said, do you know of anywhere I can rent? And he didn't draw breath, he just went, my home is yours. And I just moved in there for 5 weeks. He's the most generous, loveliest man, really is. And such a gent. Some of you have probably heard this, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but he never took his trousers off for any of the bedroom scenes, ever. And there was one time where the camera was looking at our feet, naked feet intertwining, and the camera was supposed to come up over the duvet, and then shooters doing some pillow talk. And they said to him, John, we can see your trousers. So, and he leapt out of bed and started to roll them up. And I said, oh, darling, take them off. It doesn't matter. We've known you, you know, a couple of years now. It's not a problem. And he went, no, it's like this. He said, if I get excited, I'm embarrassed. If I don't, you're insulted. So we'll just keep it a secret, shall we?
Have you worked in theatre with John?
No, only like poetry recital type evenings. No, I'd love to. I mean, he's a wonderful actor. He does panto from time to time. Anybody seen his Sheriff of Nottingham? Just fantastic.
Now, you did Bergerac in Jersey, which I imagine was quite glamorous.
Yeah, it's so lovely.
And now you're in Doc Martin, which is shot in Cornwall.
Yeah. It's very, very like doing Bergerac because, you know, I'm on the coast and it's got the same production values and we do that good old-fashioned thing called rehearsal and, yeah, it was lovely. It's lovely to do.
So is it all filmed on location?
Yeah.
That must be a pleasant change from Doctor Who.
It is. It was a joy. Little cottage by the sea. Gorgeous.
Now, speaking of Doctor Who, which I think we should, I can't help noticing that when you started playing Leela, you had brown eyes.
Don't you make my brown
But
eyes
you haven't,
blue?
yeah. So what happened there?
Apparently Leela means dark-eyed beauty. They thought that you couldn't have dark skin and blue eyes. Philip Hinchcliffe, the then producer, and then on Horror Fang Rock, the new producer took over, Graham, and he liked the blue eyes, so we wrote that scene. I could get my own eyesight back, which is great. Because to make my eyes brown, I had to wear red contact lenses, which is quite hard, quite difficult. So it's a lot of. It makes you feel quite breathless after about 4 hours.
I was going to say, did you find the contact lenses uncomfortable?
No, I mean, I wear lenses anyway, because I can't really see much further than about there. But no, I didn't like the coloured ones at all.
But that's the good thing about doing Doctor Who on audio. You don't have to worry about what colour your eyes are.
No, or whether you're wearing makeup or anything.
Now, obviously Sarah Jane Smith came back into Doctor Who, and so briefly did Joe Grant. Now, next year is Doctor Who's 50th, so can you please tell us that they're going to bring back Leela?
Oh, get working, guys. It needs you lot to go. Bring back Leela. I'd love to, honestly, I'd do it in a nanosecond. I love the show. I really love it. I love everything it stands for. You know, it's just the difference between right and wrong, isn't it? It's just good old-fashioned, fantastic, epic storytelling, and it has the loyalist fans in the world.
Speaking of epics, it starts again tonight.
I know.
Tonight.
What are you doing here?
September the 1st. Did you?
Oh, you're going to watch it here? Okay, good.
Are you going to be watching it?
No, but I'll watch it as soon as I get home.
Because apparently we're showing it on the. It's not official, but we're showing it as a freebie. A freebie. On the big screen.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be there because I want to see the Daleks on the big screen. But Leela didn't meet the Daleks.
And she has on audio.
And are they as scary as I imagine they were?
You know, when I first got the job, when I got offered it, I remember putting the phone down from my agent and sitting on there. I had this like sofa bed in my little flat in North London and going, oh, I'm going to meet the Daleks. And I didn't. Isn't that a shame? I did meet K9 though.
Didn't Leela go off into the sunset with K9?
I know, and then he turned up, Mark II.
Oh, that's not fair.
I know, how crap is that?
Now, one thing I must ask you about, because we are running out of time, but you do some drama teaching.
Yeah.
So how does that work out?
Well, we do one open air Shakespeare a year. We get them all, get their audition speeches up to scratch. I've got 5 kids into drama college this year. So yeah, we work, Nigel works with me as well. And another wonderful, wonderful music man called Adam Rood. Watch out for that name, he's the next Jules Holland. He's sensational, he can play anything. He can not support, what is it when you play music behind something? Accompany, thank you. Brain's going. Accompany anybody. He can't read a note of music. He's just got an ear that can pick anything up. I'm so jealous. It's a wonderful skill.
And this is done through your company, which I think is called TLC.
TLC Productions, yeah.
And this is primarily for theatre work.
Yes. Well, yes, a small theatre work, yeah.
Now, what I would like to do at this point is to say, are there any questions from the audience?
When you were cast as Leela, you obviously thrust into the public debate of what you've done. How did you cope with fame? Because it's the first big role you had, really, isn't it?
How did I cope with fame?
Yeah, being recognised as public.
I loved it. I really loved it. And it was such a surprise to me. I kind of didn't realise what it entailed. I didn't like it when it got to EastEnders. It was a whole different kind of fandom happening. Because all the parts I'd played up to that point had been slightly, you know, from another planet. An estate agent lived on a glamorous lifestyle in Jersey, or a prisoner of war camp, or, you know, they'd all been a bit removed from real life, as it were. And then suddenly I'm playing this working class mum in East London, and people think you are that person. They really think you are. And I used to go and do my Sainsbury's shop during the omnibus on a Sunday, because just to kind of to try and be out when EastEnders fans weren't. It was very, very odd. And if people were drunk, they'd come, oh, we're going to buy you a drink, because they think I'm a good old EastEnder. And it's like, I found that I didn't cope with that very well at all. But up to that point and since, you know, it dies in about 6 months when you're out of the show. It just dies. And you go back to just being, you know, like normal.
Well, look, tragically, there's a saying, and it's time flies when you're having fun. And I've just been given the signal that we've got to, because in a minute they're going to have the raffle, which is important,
Right.
apparently. So, ladies and gentlemen, can I please ask you to put your hands together for Louise Jameson?
Thank you. Thank you.